What is a virtual community, Howard?
When I came up with the term, it was 1987, and the emphasis was really on community rather than the virtual part, because people were asking me whether anyone besides some kind of maybe anti-social electrical engineer would be interested in using computers to communicate with people. And I was very excited because what I had discovered in bulletin board systems and ultimately the well were real people who became part of my life.
One of the reasons people are drawn to virtual communities like Second Life is people are hungry for community. They're hungry for meaning.
This is a societal shift, not unlike when we moved from the farms to the village, from the village to London.
But it became a community faster and more profoundly than I would have expected, frankly. It still lives to this day, not only in memory, but as a place where a number of people hang out.
I think one of the things that the web is doing, the kind of glue that it's brought to us that we haven't had before, is the glue of obsession, the glue of fascination, the glue of passion about something in particular. And so I think people who maybe before were lost or felt alone in their own little interests now are able to really connect with people who share what they share, this fascination with something in particular. And that particularness has been amplified and magnified. And that is the glue that I think brings a lot of people together that was not present before.
You know, all technology is rooted in ideology. One of the big misunderstandings of the internet is it suddenly came along, this miracle, this religious miracle that was granted to us because we were such good human beings. It's very important for people to understand that the internet, with its absence of a center, with its obsession with the edge, is not coincidental. It reflects values. And technology can never be detached from values. Technology reflects human beings. Human beings don't reflect technology.
It is the most empowering generational shift that has ever happened.
Well, it's a funny thing, which is the experience of connecting with other people in Second Life, in the virtual world. It is experiential in a certain sense, so that it becomes difficult to describe it except by appeal to having had a similar kind of experience. So if you've ever felt really connected, you've come to some place, I'm not talking about computers, technology, or networks, and you found some people, and you go, I like it here. I feel like I belong. This is new. This is interesting. I can be who I really am here, and I can't in other places. I want more of this. I want to invest in this. I want to become known here. I want to contribute to it. This feels good. It's that kind of experience that is sort of missing in people's lives. So when they find that in a place like Second Life, they get hooked.
So the local and the online were blended in, I think, a way that turned out to be helpful. And you see that, since then with meetups and whatnot, that the online world wants to not just reference the physical world, but encourage the physical world, I think.
In a really an unmistakable way, my use of the net was changing the way I think, in changing my ability to do things like concentrate or contemplate one particular piece of information or read through 100 pages of a book.
When you grow up expecting to be able to find information at a moment's notice, what does it do to your ability to internalize information? And
the human brain is malleable throughout the course of anybody's life, but it's particularly malleable, of course, when you're young. So if a person is brought up looking at screens and using the web and being bombarded by information, then the question is, will the brain circuitry necessary to do things like deep reading, deep thinking, will those circuits ever even come into being? Will they be wired for that kind of thinking, or will they be wired completely for internet type of thinking, for taking in lots of information very, very quickly. And I think that's the big fear, is that we'll end up with a generation of people who are very good at using the net and very good at finding information and processing information very quickly, but don't really have any capacity for contemplativeness or for concentration or for deep engagement with information.
I think one of the things that has happened to the first generation of kids to grow up always being online, which by the way are my kids. They have never experienced dial-up or anything like that. They've always had always on. And what I've seen is they have a global awareness that was not present in my generation. They really feel as if this is one world. They also feel as if they are always connected to everyone else. There is a feeling of being connected that I did not have in my generation. And I think the third thing is that there is a sense of movement forward, the sense of going somewhere, of maybe we might call it progress, that I think was not present in previous generations.
You can sit at your house and make change. And we're talking about social change and political change and economic change in a way that was never possible before. And I think that that's something that we should embrace, and that we should look at what are the ways that we're going to make it the best of what people can be, as opposed to the worst of what people can be.
The web is so much bigger than just business, making money, and governing. It is really culture at large. It's a new form of culture, and the culture will range from playfulness and inefficiency and just playing around to the most serious accomplishments and achievements of humanity. So it has the full range, and I think we should embrace that, the fact that it can be trivial, that the web can be a waste of time, that it can be nonsense, and at the same time, it's probably the greatest thing that we've ever done.
The counterculture has become the thing in itself, the thing of value. Adverts leverage the idea of rebellion, of resistance to authority as a way of selling products. So the counterculture has become the heart of capitalism. And so it's no coincidence that the new barons of capitalism, the young men in Google and Yahoo and MySpace and Twitter and Facebook, are also deeply countercultural.
In a society that is oriented around the production and consumption of consumer goods, buy more stuff. I mean, it doesn't make people happy. I know this sounds like a gross oversimplification, and in some ways it is. But when there's an alternative to be able to reach out and to find kindred spirits who have common interests or share a common perspective on life and to feel fulfilled by that, people will do that, even if it is a somewhat low resolution version of reality. And I would call a virtual world like a very low-res version of real reality. People are hungry for meaning, hungry for contact.
There's a new variety, a new dimension of social interaction that was not present before, and that is the dimension that we're exploring now. That has not really been possible before. It's not been possible to have 100 friends dedicated to one really obscure little fascination, and now that's everyday occurrence. And so for many people, this kind of new club, this kind of bowling, is really a revelation and a great gift.
People will have the experience of having thousands of friends. Well, no one really has thousands of friends. It's either the word thousands or the word friends has to be struck out for that sentence to make any sense. So it's evident to everybody that the web has been this incredible amplifier of weak ties, right? We have many, many more connections. People we knew, from high school or from college that we haven't seen in years, but somehow we're linked to in this way. What we don't know is what that's doing to strong ties. And there has been early research to suggest, in a way kind of alarmingly, that there really is a trade-off. You can't just amplify the number of weak ties without decreasing either the number or the depth of strong ties you have. And if that's true, that's a big change, because it's nice to have people where you can say, oh, hey, I'm coming out to San Jose, you want to get together for coffee, whatever. But it's really nice to have somebody who'd loan you a kidney if you needed one. And if we're amping up the former at the expense of the latter, that's a really big change in the way human society works or can work.
I think we're at the point in history now where more people are living in cities than are not living in cities, and you can have communities in London and New York, these places that a lot of people characterize as being big, soulless, heartless places where nobody knows each other. Sounds like the internet, doesn't it? But you find a block, you find a pub, you find a place where people have real connection with each other. So I don't think we should be so quick to judge what's a real community and what's not. We need to look at the reality and the authenticity of the relationships.
Equally important dimension of the internet is that the future of the 21st century is going to involve some version of globalization, and we have to get globalization to work. And that means we have to somehow figure out ways to break down certain barriers that exist between people.
People just capturing moments, be it a local event happening within their town, or protests, or what's happened in Iran. People capturing these moments and having a chance to share them with the world, and people using it as a resource to be informed. And what I think it does, when you see the personal side of people just capturing everyday life, is that it breaks down cultural barriers. In the past, I think people have just kind of consumed their knowledge, or I guess their perception of the world, just through media, which again isn't always unbiased. But when you start seeing everyday life from everyday people on the streets, no matter what country they live in, I think it adds a very personal element to that people can connect with, and they start understanding that they have families, they have feelings, they have dreams, just like I do, and not hearing just the biased stories that they would tune in and see on the news.
So when you listen to the young men who run Google, they will spout the ideology about the absence of an edge. They will talk about doing no evil. They will attempt to reform the world in their image. The reality, though, is they're monopolizing the print business. They're putting newspapers out of business. The reality is they hire 747 jets. They buy the airports next to their office and they fly around Africa. So the reality of economics and the ideology seem in contradiction, but when you understand, I think, the full history of the internet, it actually makes sense.
A whole cultural, set of mores that have to catch up with the fact that we've all kind of logged in. We're not there yet, and we don't understand the implications of it, but we sense it. I mean, we're not dumb. We're social beings, and we want to be out there. We just don't have a clear picture of where we are, and we're going to get there. And I think the way we get there is through some tragedies and some successes. The successes look like Twitter. The tragedies look like people who are murdered because someone stalked them online, or someone's information is stolen and they lose their credit and they lose their life savings. But as a culture, I really think we haven't had the conversation, and I find that fascinating and a huge opportunity, to tell a story, right? Because there's so many good stories to be told about what this all means.